see this clearly, but this is the MG ZS, a car that has been on Philippine roads for quite some time. And when it was first launched in 2018, I wouldn't say it was the dark horse, but it was definitely a car that everybody fell in love with very quickly because of, well, three main things. It looked good, it was capable for then, and then at the same time, it was also extremely affordable. So these three things made it a great factor, and that's what made it such a great car. 4 years later, it seems like MG has done it again with this stunner of a beauty. This is the 2022 MG GT. There are two variants going to be available. There's the Alpha, which is the lower variant, and then there's this, the Sport. Before anything else, first I want to tell you that this is not replacing the MG5, although this is actually known as the MG5 in China. I know that's a bit kind of confusing, but here in the country, let's just talk about the Philippines. It's not replacing the MG5. It is an addition to the MG lineup. It's not exactly brand spanking new in terms of the car itself because it was actually launched in China back in 2020 as the MG5. But it's brand spanking new on our shores. Think about it this way. It's basically been road tested for the past 2 years in China before they finally brought it to us, where hopefully they've ironed out all the kinks. So on today's walk around is what it is. We're going to go through the differences, some of the differences between the Alpha and the GT. Sport is the top of the line. And then we'll also try to go for a quick drive and give you some impressions on what the car actually feels like on the road. Not a lot of impressions, but definitely some feedback. But before all of that, let's talk about the exterior of this automobile because it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at it. It's like the wind really did a good job on this car. When I say wind, I mean the engineers. Let's start at front. This grille, this right here, is called the digital flaming grille. And they can call it whatever it is that they want because it's just gorgeous. It is a very unique and massive grille, really, to be honest with you. Down here, you've got a spoiler that's carbon fiber, and then a huge MG logo in the center. You've got LED headlamps that are very slim, actually, and then you've got cuts here, very large cuts here. You know, looking at it from this particular angle where you are right now, the cuts kind of remind me somewhat of a Toyota 86 because it's just so large. Like, anyway, again, more cuts here on the hood. Look at it, the way it's shaped, right? And it kind of tapers down. And then the odd thing is that the shape is kind of familiar to me. If you take this shape right here from the front till maybe about here, this whole shape here kind of reminds me of like a 2018 Mercedes-Benz CLS, like a hard shell bug. I gotta tell you, that's not a bad thing if you're comparing it to a CLS, man. That's absolutely gorgeous. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So you have the digital flaming grille up front. You've got sleek LED headlamps, and then you've got lines on the body that look absolutely great. They start out large, one up here and one down here, and then they kind of taper down by the time it gets to the end. And then a small kink, as if to say, check me out. Ain't it great? It's nice. You are looking at 140, around about 140 millimeters of ground clearance. You've also got disc brakes, rear and front. These wheels are 17s wrapped in 17 series tires that are, obviously they're 17s, but they're wrapped in 50 series tires is what I'm trying to get at. Even the side mirror, look at it. It seems like it's really shaped by the wind. And of course, on the side mirror, you've got cameras here for your around view monitor and your repeaters. Before we move on, these around view cameras, they are only available on the GT Sport. They're only available on the Sport. The Alpha only has a reverse camera. So more differences as we move along. So you've got a chrome trim here up on top. And then, this is one of my favorite parts about the car. This extremely gorgeous, like, fastback appeal. Ain't it? Look at it. And the rear looks like it's been hitting the gym and not forgetting leg day because look at it. It's gorgeous. It kind of reminds me of a Jaguar, actually. Jack, come around this way. You got to see it from this particular angle here. It does really remind me of a Jaguar. And thanks to the rear glass and the way that it's angled and the shape of the rear door itself, it really does look like it's got a very beautiful fastback appeal. Huh? Good. And the lights. I'm telling you, it looks like a Jag. Down below, you've got somewhat of a diffuser here, kind of a whatnot. And then you have exhaust tips here and here. I'm not exactly sure if those are the exhausts. No, they are just, it's a garnish. This is a garnish, this is a garnish. But it is a twin exhaust because I don't know if Jack will be able to see it, but there's one down here and then it splits to another one here. When you open her up, it may not look like a lot, but that's actually 401 liters of space. It's not very, say, tall, so to speak. It's somewhat wide, but what it is actually deep. It goes all the way. This thing's deep, man. Look at it. That's the top of my head. That's just the legs sticking out. Look at that. Anyway, stop laughing, Jack. Yeah, 401 liters of space. Now, I want to bring you, I can't stop looking at it from the outside. It just looks so good. Check me out on the rear passenger seats, and I'm going to show you what it is like inside. Inside the MG GT, this is the sport variant, of course, I mentioned. Quite spacious. That I moved this to my normal driving position, and I've got a lot of room. Good support for your thighs because the seat does stretch out quite long. That's a little exaggerated. I moved that seat a little forward just to show exactly how much space that there is. But really, that's my normal driving position, and me behind me, that's a really odd concept, but there is still a lot of space. If Jack, however, were driving, it would be much like the other cars in this particular segment, like let's say like the Civic, where I would still be able to fit, but the space would be a little bit tighter. The seats, however, are quite comfortable. The leather it's comfortable too. It's not the best of leather, but it is quite good leather. And the bonus is that regardless whether you get the Alpha or this GT, you get leather seats nonetheless. Very nice, huh? Oh, and check this out. It's got some textures too. It's got some red stitching here and a different texture here, and then red panel here. It's actually very nice. On to the toys. Unfortunately, as I can tell, that there is no center armrest available, but you do have one air vent found up front and a USB charging point, and then a small little cubby hole here. The nice thing is that when you don't have a center armrest, then it forces you to, not forces you, but it allows you to have a third passenger without any worries because it's very flat to the back. And since the tunnel is actually quite low, a third passenger I think is possible, maybe not for long trips, but yeah, easily a third passenger for a short trip around the city and whatnot. Seats are nice though. I like it. And the angle is quite good. Oh, you also have grab handles and a light on every side of the car. You also have bottle holders on either door, not very large ones, but capable ones of carrying maybe about ½ liter plastic bottles, and then speakers that have a very funky feel to it. It's very different to have textures around the speakers like this. It kind of reminds me of the grill up front. That's pretty funky. That's nice. Let's get on to the business end of the automobile. Hopping into the driver's seat, first the dashboard, predominantly plastic with different textures, so that just means it's easy to clean. And then you get down here to the center where it's a different texture, piano black as what it seems like. And then this looks like it's brushed aluminum, it's actually plastic. It's just, all these plastics though make for a very huge symphony is what I'm trying to get at, because it's just very different to look at and to touch and feel too. The driver, or rather the controls for your air and the touchscreen, is actually angled a little bit toward the driver. Much like here on the left side, it's a little bit angled and biased to the driver. This too, a little biased to the driver. And I like that because it really makes you feel like you're in a fighter pilot cockpit kind of a thing. So, on to the tech that you will find in here, and the differences, of course, from the Alpha and the Sport. Both Sport and Alpha do get a 12.3 digital instrument cluster. That's for both variants. And both of them, good news also, they both get a 10-inch infotainment system that has both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's only the GT, or rather the GT Sport, that has an around view camera. In the Alpha, it has a reverse camera. Then you've got your air controls found down here, followed by 2 USB charging points. You have an electronic gear shifter, which actually, it's pretty nice. Reminds me of a BM, actually, this electronic gear shifter. Automatic, or rather electronic parking brake, auto hold. And then this cubby hole here that it's so big, it looks like London's Bridge. Look at that, it's huge. The cubby hole, not so big, but this armrest is actually pretty awesome. You do have piano black plastics found here in main touch areas, including the electronic shifter. But I think because of the car, the way that it looks, it's not exactly like your just basic and average family sedan, although it is, but it kind of looks a little sportier. I think that the piano black works for it. So does too the paddle shifters found on the steering wheel, which is semi-flat bottom, just a small portion down here. And then you got your controls for your audio and, well, I haven't actually turned it on, but I believe that this is your audio and this is your drive computer available there. Cruise control is available. It's just not on the steering wheel itself, but it's on a stalk. This is the one thing that I always confuse with MG. I always think that there is no cruise control, but there is, because I need to use my eyes. I've got 4 of them already, and the cruise control is found down here on this side. Now, also, the difference between the Alpha and the Sport is that the Sport has a beautiful sunroof available here, whereas the Alpha does not. I think that's pretty much the only difference there. Well, for the small differences inside the car. The biggest difference would actually be what's actually pulling the car. And let's get to that right now. Nope, I gotta open it. Sorry. There you go. 2 variants means 2 engine options. The Alpha, let's talk about the Alpha first. That is a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine mated to a CVT, or an ICVT, that produces 112 horses and 150 Newton meters of torque. Now that's for the Alpha. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sport, and it's very different. It does also have a 4-cylinder gasoline engine, which is a 1.5, but this is a turbocharged gasoline engine, and it's not mated to a CVT, it's mated actually to a DCT, or a TST, which is basically the same transmission as they have on the HS. Now this power mill produces 159 horses and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, what is getting me is that it produces so much power for a car, and this is the heavier one, that's just basically 1,300 kilos. So I'm thinking this thing will go like a bat out of hell, one, and second, fuel efficiency should be darn good. Now, I can't tell you exactly what it is to drive it like a bat out of hell, or what the fuel efficiency is going to be like, but we are going to go now for a quick drive and give you our first impressions. Sweet. So we really aren't going to be able to drive this car much. We've driven it all of maybe 500 kilometers and, 500 meters, 500 kilometers. And my initial impression is it's quite smooth. The ride is quite smooth, even though that this is 17s on 50 series tires. It's actually pretty quiet. I'm driving around an area where it's pretty noisy on all cars, and it's actually still quite smooth in here. That's one. The next thing is the DCT in here is the same, they say, as that found in the HS, but I think there's it's a lot smoother now. I think they bettered it by just a little bit. That is, of course, while driving it. When slowing down, there is still sort of like a second punch, a second kick, that it's a small bump forward, a small surge forward as you're slowing down, because I believe that the gears are trying to find the proper one to coast at, or to come to a complete stop. It's not jarring by any means necessary. It's just something that I guess you will need to get used to and apply the brakes accordingly. You're not really supposed to do this at an intersection, but I'll turn the air off and I'm going to put it in park. I'm going to turn the engine off. Now I'm turning the engine off because check this out. When you start the engine, look at the screen, okay? When you start the engine, there's a little dude that comes on. Oh, where is he? Where's the little dude? Oh, wait, let me try that again. Turn this off. I won't step on the brake. This time I'll turn the accessory on. Wala pa rin.
Maybe it needs to be from a matagal na naka-off.
Ay, nako, Carlo, palpak. Palpak. Magyayabang ka lang, palpak pa. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put it into sport and see what it feels like to accelerate quite quickly. Obviously, we can't go very fast. We can punch it up to about 60 kilometers per hour only. But I'm gonna go from a slow crawl. I'm doing about 10 kilometers per hour. Then I'm gonna punch it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, it took a while. Oh, but when it kicks, it kicks. Okay. Initially, what I thought, I was driving at 10 kilometers per hour. Then I buried it. And it took a while before actually anything happened. It was a very slow crawl. You could feel that the power was sort of like building up. Sort of like the rage against someone that you have. It just builds up over time. And then finally, when you release it, you're so angry and boom, it kind of goes. I'm talking about the car, right?
Coming from somewhere.
No, it's not. Traffic was just really nice today.
Nice or bad?
I'm just saying, we'll go with nice. So the power took quite a while to get in. But once it did, in this turbo, wow, it was like, okay. And since we could only hit a maximum of 60 kilometers per hour, I was immediately on the brakes because I think that we had hit that speed already quite quickly, actually. Okay, there's this one quick test that I want to do. I'm in drive right now. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to see how long it takes actually to engage it into reverse. Now, this is because I had sort of like an issue with it when it came to the HS. So we come to a complete stop, pop it in reverse. And yo, that was much quicker than the HS. Much, much better. A lot faster too. I like that. I am excited to get this guy on the road and see really what the transmission feels like on this 1.5. Should be very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Its looks alone already merit us going, I want to get this car for a behind the wheel episode immediately. But thankfully, it's more than just skin deep, because you're talking about a fuel efficient engine, which is only a 1.5, but it's got a turbo. So that means it's producing 250 horses, right? 250 newton meters of torque. And then there's the fact that the car only weighs like 1,300 kilograms. So on those merits alone, yes, definitely. We cannot wait to get our hands on the GT once again for a proper behind the wheel. So do subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on anything. So the only thing that's really left to talk about is its price. I'm gonna ask you guys the same question that I did ask Jack, which is, give it a guess. What are you thinking? About 1.2, 1.25? If you did guess 1.25, then yeah, that's about the same as Jack thought. But let me tell you, I can't confirm exact prices, but what I can tell you is that the Alpha variant is less than 1 million Philippine pesos. The GT is, well, it's over 1 million Philippine pesos, but it's not an astronomical figure. It might actually just be around or below 1.1 million Philippine pesos. Now, as of filming this right now, I don't know the exact figures, but by the time this hits the airwaves, we might actually have the figures already. So if the editors are doing so, they might actually put it on the screen, or even better yet, head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph and find out just exactly how much the Alpha and the Sport are. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe. See you soon.